Hi, Year 9. We're going to go ahead and introduce you to Chapter 3 today with Algebraic Expressions. Go ahead and set up your notes. Put the date at the top and your title. 3A is Algebraic Expressions. We discussed this in class today, but there are a couple words that we need to be familiar with as we enter algebra. First one is pronumerals. Sometimes you might also see this written as a variable. These are letters that replace numbers, or letters that stand for numbers. So the most common one is the X. And you'll also see others. So we might see X, for example, X, Y, pretty much any letter that you want can represent a number. When you start to put together numbers and letters, you get expressions. So an expression is some kind of letter and number that are put together with operations. So letters and numbers combined with operations. And operations could be addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. So an example of an expression might be, let's see, like 2x plus 3. I've added together the product of 2 and x to 3, okay? If that expression has combination, like here, we have a 2 multiplied by an x. So if you have a combination of a number multiplied by a pronumeral, that number is called the coefficient. So think of co, like when you have a co-captain. They go together, okay? So your co-captain, it is the number being multiplied by the pronumeral. So for example, if you're given 2x, 2 would be the coefficient. And last but not least, if you are talking about a constant term, the constant term is the number that's added or subtracted, and it's not multiplied by a pronumeral. So for example, back here, it would have been the 3. It's the number that is not going to change by being multiplied to a pronumeral. So the constant term is a number. There we go. So for example, if you guys were given 3x plus 7, it is a number that is not multiplied. It is just a number. So not multiplied by the pronumeral. So in my example that I just wrote on the board, 3x plus 7, the 7 is the constant. In class today, we discussed translating algebraic expressions. So we're looking for these key words, like decreased by means subtraction. Less than also means subtraction, however, it changes the order. So there's a big kind of caveat with the second one, less than, it changes the order. Sum, meaning addition. Divided by, obviously, meaning division. And then square of means when you actually put that little 2 on the top. So if you have a base of x, I would put a little 2 on the x for square, and then we have sum again for addition, and so on and so forth. So for these, 5 decreased by x would just be 5 minus x. But when I see the words less than, it changes the order. So instead of writing 5 minus x, I'm going to write x minus 5. So be careful when you see the less than, because it does change the order of how it's written in the sentence. The sum of a and b would mean I'm going to add a and b together. But then it says divided by x. So when you see this word sum, it actually is putting a and b together with brackets, because I want to divide that entire sum by x. You might also see this as a plus b over x. Both of those would show division by x. And then it says, number 4, the square of the sum of x and 5. So I have squaring something, but what I'm squaring is the sum of x and 5. So I have the sum by adding x and 5, and then I'm going to square that sum. So again, brackets are used. So sometimes we have to, it's insinuated, it doesn't say directly that we're using brackets, but we have to add the brackets in. Go ahead and pause the video here so you guys can look at a couple of the words that we should be familiar with that mean addition, subtraction, multiplying, and dividing, or adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. We are probably familiar with most of these, but go ahead and take a read through, jot down some of the ones that you're not as familiar with, and that way you guys can have this as a reference to look back on when you're trying to translate. And last but not least, we're going to take a look at substitution. So now that we know what an algebraic expression is, what are some of the things that we can do with an algebraic expression? So I've given you guys 3 algebraic expressions here. And we are going to substitute values. So every time you see an A, we're going to put a 5 there. And every time you see a B, we're going to put a -3 there. I want you guys to write substitution using brackets. So my biggest hint to you today is to make sure you use brackets. That is Miss Inson's biggest tip. So for example, in number 1, I'm going to set up 3, and where the A is, I'm going to put brackets, and then plus B, and I'm going to put brackets. The reason why my brackets are there is because this first bracket is supposed to be my A value. The second bracket is supposed to be my B value. So let's look back up. We said A is 5, so I'm going to put 5 where the A goes. We said B is -3, so I'm going to put -3 in that second bracket. With the brackets there, it makes it a lot easier to actually work with this expression. So use your brackets to substitute. Okay? And then we use our order of operations to simplify. So they're really just 2 steps when we're substituting. So this says 3 times 5 plus -3. So we can do this on our own or check with your calculator, put it in exactly as it looks, and we should get 15 minus 3, which is going to give you 12. Let's go ahead and set up the next 2. And if you want to pause the video here to try these on your own, that would be a good idea. With the second one, though, we have A squared, making sure to put our square outside the brackets, and then minus B. Remember, we want to put our A in the first brackets and our B in the second brackets. So we'll put 5, that's going to be squared, and then minus -3. Be careful if you're doing this one by hand, because the 5 squared gives you 25. But remember, you have a double negative, so that's actually going to be plus 3, and you'll get 28. Last but not least, the last one, number 3, is 3 times B minus A. We want to replace B in the first brackets and A in the second brackets. So I'll put -3 in the first and 5 in the second. Using our calculator or order of operations, we will get -9 and then -5. So we should get an answer of -14. You can always pause here to work back through these to make sure you feel confident. And then at the end, always go back and look at your notes, see what you might need to ask me about next time, and also maybe star some of the important information, put a question mark by the things we don't understand, and have a good night.